Hi again, and welcome back to Learning to Code by Writing Space Invaders. We're back on to lesson number 22 now. So in our last lesson we added sound to our game, and we've got to this point here. So we're almost at the end of our game development, but at the moment we still really haven't got a proper game, as the aliens aren't fighting back. So in this lesson we're going to put in the alien bombs and see if we can get them destroying our player ships. So as usual, we are loading in our last lesson and saving it as our new lesson, and then just making a slight change just there. So for our alien missiles then, we've already done a lot of the code for this. So we've produced player missiles, and in effect our alien missiles are simply going to be the same as our player missiles, only going the other direction. And we've also then looked at how we can generate these arrays full of missile objects. And we're going to use one of the techniques we used earlier down here. So remember we did our player bullets, and that was a fixed size array. But then in our last ones we did our explosions, where we have a dynamic array where we're adding elements in as they get created and then taking them out as that particular element finishes its span. So we're going to use that technique for our alien missiles. So we're going to create in here. We're going to have to then, of course, have somewhere to store them. So we're going to create an array called alien missiles, and we're going to make that equal to our empty table. So that's where we're going to store each of the missile objects. But we do want to make sure that we don't have too many missiles on screen. If we just don't have a limit, then obviously our screen will just get totally filled with missiles and our player will die instantly. So we're going to have then a variable or a constant called max alien missiles. And we're going to actually set that to 20. And again, that's by using this variable in our code, then we can simply change this number here, and all of a sudden we will be able to have as many missiles as we want on screen at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just give you a brief rundown of the bits we need to write for this block of code, and then I'm going to give you a chance to write that yourselves. And as I say, we're really going to be copying a lot of the techniques we've used for both our explosions in helping us generate alien missiles on the fly, and then of course once those alien missiles have disappeared off the screen, taking them out of that array, and then of course our player bullet code, which will show us how to move and draw those missiles around. Okay. As usual then, we'll be building up the code in a number of stages. So let's start at the beginning. If we actually run the software, we have our aliens moving. And we know that as they move, then we want them to start dropping bombs. But we're going to want these bombs to be a bit random, so they don't always come from the same aliens. So we have to think about how we're going to achieve that. So let's go back to our code and let's think about how we can get the missiles initiated. Okay. So we have our alien missiles table, and we know then that we have this idea of max alien missiles. But let's have a look in our code to see where would be a good place to work out if an alien is going to fire a missile or not. And if you think about it, when we're moving our aliens, so if we go to the move aliens code, we know here that our system is actually going to, down here, go through each row and column and work out whether that alien needs to be moved or not. But if we look in here then, we'll see that we do actually have a bit of code. So we are doing some edge detection. Remember, that's when the aliens hit the edge and move down. And then of course we have when they're not at the edge. So one of the things we have in this function which I think will not make it a great one for us to use, is that we actually have two separate blocks of code which are iterating through our alien array. And then if we do it there, then we'll have to do some checks in the bit where we've hit the edge and some checks in the bit where we haven't hit the edge. So maybe that's not the best place to do it. So the other place where we go through each of our aliens then is when we draw our aliens. So if we go to the draw aliens function, we see that we have a much simpler function here. And all it's simply doing then is it's looping through in this if I copy that correctly. So in this area here, so we have a for loop that's going through every row, every column, and in here then it's looking to see if this particular alien is alive, and if this alien is alive, it then draws him on the screen. So at this point here, we could now put in some code. Sorry, that's the wrong language. Two dashes. So work out if alien will fire a missile, or alien will fire. So something in here, we're going to put in some code which will actually initiate a missile being launched from this particular alien. Now we haven't yet worked out how we're going to do that. So for the moment, as we develop our code, all we'll do is we'll make sure that every time we come through here, our alien will try to fire a missile. To fire a missile then, we're going to have to create a function which will do that. So let's call that spawn missile, or so spawn alien missile. So this function then we will pass it across the position of this alien, and what this will do then, it will work out whether we are able to fire a missile or not at this point. So we're actually going to take all of the code which handles making the decision on whether this alien can actually fire the missile or not, and we're going to embed it inside this function. So we will have some code here which will work out if this alien wants to fire a missile. Okay, and we're going to use some sort of random decision making there, but we'll look at that in a little bit. And then inside here, the alien has said, I would like to fire a missile, but this function will actually handle whether it's possible to fire a missile, in other words, if there's any free slots available, and then actually create the missile and set it in motion. So somewhere down at the bottom of our code then, we will want to create this function. So spawn alien missile. So I'm going to copy that name and go right down to the bottom of our code, down here. And again, we now have our function, which is our spawn alien missile. And again, we will have to pass some information into this to make it work. And then we're going to end that function, and that is the end spawn alien missile. Okay. So inside our draw alien function, we work out if this alien wants to fire it. Inside here, it will have to work out if it's possible to fire the missile, and then put that missile into our alien missiles array so that it will then be put on the screen. Putting it on the screen then, we will of course have to create our usual function to draw them. So function draw alien missiles. Okay, so this is a function which is going to look at what is currently in our alien missiles array and then put those on the screen. And again, we need to finish that one by doing there. Then our draw alien missiles function, of course, needs to be called from within our tick routine. Okay, so in here we do all of our moving and so on, and again we haven't yet done our move alien bullets. We'll look at that in a little bit. But we now want to say we're going to draw our player bullet. We actually want to then draw our alien missiles, and then carry on and draw the rest of our stuff there. Okay. So we now have the bare bones of our code to actually get alien missiles being generated. Okay, we haven't yet finished this, okay, so we're not yet moving them, we're not yet detecting any collisions, and we're not yet taking them off the screen. But we now have the bare bones in getting something into our alien array and getting it on the screen. Okay, so you will need to now look at our draw alien. So these two functions down here are spawn alien missile. And again, you need to look at the function where we generate explosions. Okay, so up here a bit, there is a create explosion somewhere. Okay, so function alien explosion, you can see here it takes in the position of the alien and then creates an explosion object and then puts it into the explosion table. So you can see that that's pretty much what we're going to be doing with our alien missiles. And then our draw alien missiles, again, we're going to be doing the same idea down here. We're not going to have to worry about having to sort of cycle through various little sprites. We'll just simply be drawing a line. So very similar to our draw player missile function, but again, we'll need to make sure we draw each of the ones which are in our alien missiles array. Okay, so the two blocks of code are pretty much there for you. What you need to do then, of course, is do the spawn function and the draw function, and then we'll see how you get on from that. So I'll put a bit of a timer on the screen. Do make sure you have a go at these. Even if you're not quite sure what's going on, have a go, and then, as I say, afterwards I'll go through it with you as well. So I'll put a timer on and see you in a few seconds. Welcome back. If you've managed to get that going, you should now have a number of missiles appearing at the top of the screen where the first row of aliens are. And again, because we haven't written any of the movement code yet, those missiles will just sit there. But if you haven't got it working, follow me through in this next bit and I'll show you how it's all done. So let's start with our draw alien missiles function so that we can actually see what happens when we come to write our spawn alien missiles. So this one's going to be very similar to our draw explosions function, where we were using a for loop, but it was actually working its way through, it was known as iterating through all the elements in our explosions array. But of course this time we're going to be iterating through all of the elements in our alien missiles array. So inside our draw aliens one then, we want to do a for, and we're going to capture the index of this particular missile and the actual missile object itself. And then we use this in pairs, and that's in our alien missiles array. Okay. Let me just go back to a smaller font size here. Okay. So we have our for loop. We're going to iterate through all of the elements, so all of the missiles in our alien missiles array, and we're going to pull out both the index of the missile so that we can reference it and the actual missile object itself. So that for will have its end of the for loop, and inside the for loop then we're simply going to draw that missile, and that's going to be very similar to the way we draw our player bullets. So we come up here and we look at our player bullets, so draw player bullets. You can see that we simply use the line command to draw a line between the start position and the end position of our bullet, and we draw it in a certain color. So I'm just simply going to copy that. Let's copy the whole thing so we can see what all the values are. I'm then going to go back down to my missile. So draw alien missiles, and I'm going to paste that in here. So we have our line command. So again, our missile, so our missile object, is now going to be given by this object variable here. So if I paste that in, all right, so we're no longer using our bullet for loop to count through them. We're actually using this whole iteration thing to pick out individual missiles for us. So that makes it just a little bit easier. And we want to do that, and there, and the color. Okay. So this is also helping us build up then what we're going to need in our missile object. So we're going to have again our position object inside our missile, and that's going to have both an X and Y coordinates. We're going to need to define a length for our missile and a color for a missile. And again, that's identical to the way we drew our player bullets. So that should then go through each of the missiles in our alien missiles array. And remember, the way we're doing it at the moment, each of these missiles will be brought into existence when an alien fires, and then will be taken out of existence, so we'll actually remove it from the array once that missile has finished. So we're not going to need to have our active flag anymore. Basically, if the missile is in our alien missiles array, it is active. So we're simply going through each one, and we're simply drawing it on the screen. So at the moment, obviously, that's not going to do anything because we have not yet created any missiles, and that's where our spawn alien missiles function comes in. So again, we're sending in a position value. Okay, so remember, that's the position of the alien who has fired this missile. So let's see how we can put that in place then. So what we're going to do is we of course need to create a missile object. So I'm going to create a missile object. So let's create a local missile. And again, this is very similar to the way in which we did the explosions function. So we're going to come in here and we're going to make that equal to one of our table objects. So we already know that from our drawing function, we need to have a position which has an X and Y coordinates. So we're going to have a position which is going to be equal to another table, and that's going to have an X. And we're going to make that equal to, well, at the moment, we have this alien position object coming in, which has an X and Y coordinates. So let's just start off by making it equal to the X and Y coordinates of that. So we'll have alien position dot X, and then our Y value equal to alien position dot Y. Now that's probably not going to be quite the right position at the moment, because we'll probably need to offset it so it doesn't so it appears in the right position from the alien, but let's just leave that for now. We then need to give it a length. So again, we said we were going to use the length, and let's set that equal to 5, because I think that's the same as we used for the player bullets. And then we have a color value. So let's have a look in our sprite editor, and let's make our alien missiles a red color. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So color 6. Color 6. Okay. So we now have our missile being generated. So it has a position on the screen, it has a length, and it has a color. And that should be enough then to draw our missile. So we simply now need to put it into our array. So we use our table.insert command, and again that comes from a library, our table library, and we're using the insert function for that. So we want to insert it into our alien missiles array, and we want to insert this particular missile. And that should be our function. So we generate our missile object, and then we put it into our alien missiles array. And then when we come to draw it, our drawing function will go through every single missile and simply draw it out on screen. Now the only thing we haven't yet done in here is work out if we are able to generate and add a new missile or not. Because remember, up at the very top of our code, so if I go back up to the very top, we did have this value called maximum alien missiles, or max alien missiles. And that tells us then that if we already have 20 missiles on screen, then not to let the aliens fire anymore. Otherwise, every single alien will just fire a missile, and our player will just not be able to move anywhere at all. So let's go back down to our draw alien missiles function, or sorry, our spawn alien missiles function. So this is the code that generates our missile. So we want to put an if statement around that, which is going to tell us whether we have got too many missiles on the screen already. So we can say if. We then need to work out how many missiles are on screen. So remember, the number of missiles we have is simply the number of elements we have in our alien missiles array. And we can access that using the hash function. So if I go back to a smaller function, which is that little X, noughts and crosses symbol. So if we do that alien missiles, so this statement here, or this expression, will tell us how many elements are in our alien missiles array. So if that is less than our maximum number of alien missiles, then we can generate our new missile. Okay, so all of these bits in here will go inside our if statement, and our if statement will end here. Okay, so we come in with a position value to tell us where the missile needs to start. We check if we have got room to fire one more missile. We then create the missile, put it in our missiles table, and that's it done. And then our draw should pick up on that. So hopefully now, if we run this code, we should be able to get a number of missiles appearing on the screen. So let's just run that and see what happens. And there we have a number of missiles appearing on screen. So let me just let the aliens get out of the way here. And we should find that we have 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 20 missiles. Okay, so that's the first bit of our code written then, which lets us spawn missiles and draw them on screen. We of course now need to make those missiles actually move and fall down the screen. So let's have a look at how we can do that. So for our missile movement then, let's go back up to our tick function and see what we have up here. So we have, at the moment, we have our move aliens function where we will actually spawn our alien bullets. But of course, once we have fired a bullet, we need to move it. So very much in the same way that we do here with our player bullets, we will now need a function called move alien missiles. And that's going to handle both the animating the missiles falling down the screen, but also then once they reach the bottom of the screen, it's going to remove them from our missiles array so that they don't just clog up the system for us. So we now need to write this function. Okay, so let me just copy that. And if we go down to our draw function, our draw alien missiles function, and underneath that then we'll add our new function, which is our move alien missiles, and then our end, and that's the function there. Okay, so this one again is going to work very similarly to our player missile movement. Okay, so we're going to need a speed value. So when we generate so when we spawn our missiles, we'll need to put in here something that's going to tell us how fast our missiles are moving, and then we're going to have to draw that missile or move the missile so that it then gets drawn in the new position. All right, so again, I'm going to leave you to have a go at this yourselves. Let me put a little timer on there, and I'll see you in a few seconds. So again, if you've got that working, you should now have those alien missiles falling down the screen. But if not, follow me through on here. So we said the very first thing we need then, again, we're really copying the code we used for our player missiles, is where we had in our missile object, we have a speed value. And we're going to set that to, let's say set it to 4. And again, because we're putting it in here as a number, we can play about with that. Okay, so that's going to tell us how many pixels the missile moves each tick. So let's go back down to our move alien missiles function. Okay, so again, we're going to have to go through each of the missiles in our array. So we have our code here already for doing that. So I'm going to copy that. So we have our for loop. And we say for each missile in our alien missiles array, we are going to do something to it. So we need to update its Y position. And again, our Y position is going to get bigger to move it down the screen. So we're going to say our missile.position.Y is going to equal to its current value plus our speed value, missile.speed. So that should now, once we do that, so we're taking each missile in turn and just simply updating its Y value. So let's run that and see what happens. And we should see, well, we get some very, very fast missiles moving there. So let's come back in here and let's just adjust that speed value. It was obviously a bit fast. So I'm going to take it down to 1 just to see what happens with that. And you can see there that we have our alien missiles falling down. So that speed actually looks reasonable at the moment. Okay, so our missiles are now animated, falling down the screen. We now need to make sure that when they get to the bottom of the screen, we remove them. So let's have a look at doing that. So after we update its Y position, we now need to check if its Y position has gone greater than the maximum height of the screen. If you remember back to our earlier code, you might remember that the maximum size for, or the maximum height for the pixel dimensions on tick 80 is 136. So our pixels are pixel number 0 at the top of the screen and 135 is the last pixel on there. So if our Y position, so if our missile.position.Y is greater than or equal to 136, then it has gone off the screen. Okay, so if it goes off the screen, what we need to do is take it out of our array. So we need to do table.remove, and we're going to remove from our alien missiles array, and we're going to move the element with our index in it. Okay, so remember, when we do this for loop using this iPairs function, that will return us back the index of the missile we're currently working with along with the actual missile object. So we can use this index then to reference that missile inside our alien missiles array, and that's where we're doing it here, where we have taken it out. And what that should then let us do is once the missile has hit the bottom of the screen, it should come out of the alien missiles array and leaving then space for new missiles to be spawned. So we should now find that once our missiles hit the end of the screen, new missiles will start falling down from the aliens in their new positions. So let's just try that then. And there we can see our missiles are now falling down from each of our aliens as they're moving along. So let's come out of that. So we now have missiles being spawned, coming down the screen, being removed from our system when they hit the bottom of the screen, and then being respawned from new alien positions. But at the moment, if you do look at that, our aliens, so the aliens in the top left corner of the alien grid, they're the ones doing all the firing, because of course as our system checks for firing, those are the ones which come up first, or are checked first. So we need to go back then to the place where we decide if an alien is going to fire or not, and that is in our draw aliens function. So going back into draw aliens then, so you see at the moment here, we currently have this workout if an alien will fire. And at the moment, we're just saying every single time you have a chance, fire a missile. So what we need to do now is we need to get that to be a bit more random. And we're going to use a special function. The Lua has a number of libraries, and you'll find this is the same for pretty much all languages. There are a large number of built-in functions that you can use. And Lua has something called a maths package, and you'll find similar things in JavaScript and stuff like that. And one of the functions inside that maths package allows you to pick random numbers. So we can say if math.random, so that's how we call the function. We then give it a number, and what will happen is the function will pick a number between 0 and the number we give it. Okay, so if we say pick a number between 0 and 50, we can then say if that number is 1, so again we're going to now have a 1 in 50 chance of this hitting the right value. Yep, so we have a random number between 0 and 50. If we're choosing only one value, it'll give us about 1 in 50 chance of getting that. Then we will fire the missile. Otherwise, this particular alien will just ignore the call and won't even try and fire a missile. Okay, so we now have our random firing of missiles. So let's try and have a look at that then. And there we see now that our aliens are pretty much randomly firing missiles at us. Okay, so each particular alien, as we check it each time we draw it, it's got a 1 in 50 chance of firing a missile. And you can see there that we now have a very random looking firing pattern. But one thing we've got to look at now is where those missiles are appearing from. So currently, if I come out of that, when we draw our alien missiles, or sorry, when we spawn our alien missiles, so let's find our spawn function. Okay, our spawn function gets passed in this position object, and that position object has got x and y coordinates, but those are the x and y coordinates of the top left corner of our alien sprite. So we actually want to make sure that our missiles come out of the bottom of the alien in the middle. So we actually need to adjust these values just slightly with an offset. And again, we did that very similar thing in our player missile, where we had our offsets in the system. So what we're going to do here then is we're just going to hard code this in. So normally you would go and you would add some variables to control this, but we know that nothing's going to change here because our sprites will always be 8 pixels by 8 pixels. So this actually isn't going to change for us. So we want to make sure it comes out of the middle of the alien. So we're simply going to move it 4 pixels over. And we want it coming out of the bottom of the alien, so we're just going to move it 8 pixels down. And that should now give us our missiles coming out of the bottom of the aliens. And if you look now, I know it's a bit hard to see, but that's what's actually happening now, is that our missiles are appearing now from the bottom of each alien. And if you look at the very top row, you'll just be able to see the missiles being spawned right in the middle of the bottom of the alien. So that's pretty much our alien missile firing function. Obviously, as you can see from the screen there, those missiles are not yet hitting our player ship. So that's what we're going to work on in the next lesson, and we're going to do the collision detection for the alien missiles hitting our player ship. And obviously, once they hit our player ship, we're going to have to do something sensible to our game to get more lives so that our player can continue on. So make sure that you save your work. So I'm going to save my work. Again, I've already saved it as lesson 22, so I'm going to save it as that. And I will see you in the next lesson. See you soon. Bye. Don't forget to visit the course pages for this project. There you'll be able to download the code for this lesson and get lots of extra hints and tips. You'll also get access to all my other programming, electronics and gaming projects. All the links are in the description below. For more games programming, electronics projects and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website.